Welcome back to a special 2C's with a pod. This is an episode so big that it wasn't, Matt and I couldn't handle it. All right. We had to bring in an all-star cast, an ensemble cast to talk about the one, the only Joe Exotic. So come on in, crack a beer, take off your pants, and let's talk about Joe Exotic. All right, now, cheers. Let me introduce y'all to who we have here. So we've got the famous Mike from Valdosta, frequent question asker on hashtag Ask Us Anything. Mike, let's see the shirt you're wearing for this illustrious occasion. I believe that's a fuck you, you fucking fuck. Okay, all right, so we got that. May, yes. Matt May, one-time host of the tribute episode to me and Kara. The only episode to bring a tear to my eye that's made me cry on more than one occasion, not just from how bad we are, just how nice you are. Matt May, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. We're living the isolation life here. I'm missing my Sporting Kansas City boys, but managing to keep myself entertained with these fantastically well-produced documentaries Netflix has been putting out here. So.
Oh God, I thought he was talking about us with the well-produced part, and I was gonna be like, "Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby? Don't you put that evil on me?"
Hey, you do a great job with the production. The production value is higher than I thought it would ever be.
Yeah, well, low bar. And last, but let's call it what it is. Certainly the best. Miss Dawn Bishop, how are you? There she is. She brings the class. She brought the background. I mean, we're going to get into these affliction crosses you have back there. We're going to get into that tiger. We're going to get into how Joe Exotic has changed the decor inside the Bishop household.
Yeah, loving life, loving Jesus. That's his motto.
There you go. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing the class. Matt, would you care to show your shirt off?
Oh, geez. So that's how I have to start off here. Okay, so here I am. All right. I'm just going to come the front view. I don't think I'm going to go the full back.
Okay.
Should I? I don't
know. No, I mean.
Come on, give the people what they want, Matt.
They want to see, yeah. It's not like you don't show your ass on here every week.
Well, that's true, but that's just for you. Okay, here we go.
Ow, ow, ow.
Man.
Look at that.
I don't love that word, but I also had to buy. I mean, again, when that person walked by us with that shirt, so we bought it at the parade. Yeah, there wasn't a chance that I wasn't finding a way. I think May loaned me money. I think that's how we figured this out. I think this is actually $2 worth May's. Actually,
I got one too.
If he owes $2 of that shirt, you better make it a belly shirt because he deserves his custody.
True, and I might just do that. Also, Andy, you mentioned take your pants off. Actually, all of us could take our pants off, but May. Let's be honest, like every one of us could actually have our pants off right now, no problems. But May actually should not. Not to just get back on.
Just that in the pre-show that my pants should probably stay on in this view. So
you putting the in Zoom.
It was amongst the notes I got. No.
That was a suggestion for the listener. I wanted the listener and the viewer to get comfortable.
That makes sense.
Okay. I mean, I was 50-50 whether I was going to show up to this in full John Finley garb. I mean, this quarantine, I kind of have the belly now. I kind of can pull off that John Finley, like just the belly. I got it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it. How big of a shit show was this? Like episode 1, you're watching this. If you're like me, you're watching this and you're like, I don't get it. Nah, this is weird. What'd you think of? What were your initial thoughts?
I believe that he has one of the most magical voices ever. I mean, all of his music videos prove that. He was definitely within about 10, 15 seconds of each word on his lips.
I wake up, alarm clock set to, hey, Dawn, wake the fuck up.
Did it not get established later that he doesn't sing, that he's not the one singing in his music video?
May, don't go there. Don't break my heart.
The regular Milli Vanilli.
Mm,
I
that was
actually
a bummer.
thought the show, I mean, it exploded quickly, but I actually like to be an early adopter. It showed up, I'd already finished Ozark, and I thought, what the hell else are we going to do? So I had no expectation on the wild ride that we were about to embark on. So every episode, you just think like, what? Huh? Can it get worse? But also like, this is kind of independence. I can get down. But yeah, I think since I caught it early, I was like, what the actual F? But I'm not disappointed.
Oh, that's a great comparison to Independence with the meth problem everywhere.
You know, I have to defend I can say it because I'm from Independence.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I heard that one of the things shaking out from the show is that most of those guys actually aren't into meth and not doing drugs. And if you ask the cast, like, what's your biggest regret? That's what they all say, is that we were drug users. But I appreciate the Independent shout out.
When you guys say this is an independence thing, what do you mean by that, Mason? As someone that married a girl from Independence.
I know. I feel bad because Independence used to be the meth capital of the United States, but they fell down to a close number 2 a few years ago to Chicago. And I mean, that was a major claim to fame.
We can't even win this one.
I know.
Well, we've got a Super Bowl. So
I love Independence. Let me just set the record straight. But I think for the rest of the country, looking at these Oklahomians, what do you call them, Okies? I think they were like, wow, are people really living this way? And I'm like, that's Steve on Cliff Court.
There was a dude with a tiger in Susquehanna, right? You know, I mean, come on, you know, like, right. In some ways, yeah, it takes a lot to shock us Independence folks. There's no doubt about that. And the first episode, I don't think did that in any way. So there was a level, like Don makes a great point, that if you kind of caught it early, you're probably the first episode is still, it's pretty wild. But if you caught it kind of after the first wave of it, you're going, well, what's all the hype about a little bit on the first one, at least with the first episode, I felt like.
Okay, so here's another burning question. Who is the protagonist and who's the antagonist in this story? Joe Dirt. I just called him Joe Dirt. That's going to happen a lot.
Same guy.
Yeah. Joe Exotic. Good guy or bad guy?
That is a burning question.
I'm a big thumbs, like, bad guy. You can be the hero of a story. I don't know. The word hero probably doesn't work, but like, you can be the main character and kind of, I don't know, but definitely bad guy in my mind.
How can you possibly be a bad guy when you have a throne? Really?
Yeah.
So
There's a way.
Any sympathy at all for Joe? Not a sympathetic
I definitely
character.
have sympathy for Joe. I do see that he's a bad guy in a sense, but I think really compared to the other main players in it, I found Joe in a lot of ways to be the least harmful of the bunch. You know, I'll tell you who struck me as the antagonist and just immediately like, wow, check out the sleaze on this guy, is Doc Ansel. Like, just, oh my goodness. Joe seems like a sweet, trustworthy guy next to that crazy dude. I mean, has anybody seen the Bikram Yoga, the Yoga Guru Predator movie? Like, Doc Ansel just was like, oh, he's like that guy, you know? I think he's the most terrifying, really, of the bunch. I mean, honestly, I think.
May, no. You're just jealous because he has about 15 non-vested wives.
Well.
And he trains them up front. If you want non-maggot covered food, then, well, you know, you have to pay up.
That's the basis for any relationship. I don't know what that girl was complaining about.
Oh, dear.
What
And
about
she got to pet tigers. She got to pet tigers. Come on, like it's worth it, right? Come on for these people.
here's all the negative things. Pet tigers. I'm in.
Yeah, it's
I'm in.
already it's over. Exactly. And the other part, and I think May makes a great point in the sense that that's a guy who's kind of skated a lot of scrutiny in some ways. And I heard somebody say, or I heard him compared to R. Kelly, and I'm like, he is R. Kelly. Like there's a level of R. Kelly about that old boy. Basically, it's very cultish, bringing in very young women like that, that definitely aren't barely of consenting age. Like that's a pretty bad guy, no doubt. Like no one is a hero of this story in my mind. Like there's no heroes.
What about Carol Baskin?
When we get to Carol, let's talk about Carol and let's really break it down. I'm willing to make the devil's advocate argument for Carol. I mean, and that will only be for the sake of good podcasting, because we all know she did it.
Before we get off of Joe Exotic, you talk about Doc Antle. I mean, I think Joe Exotic was would they age out at 19 with him?
Fair. Also fair,
and he was become managers.
I think the thing about Joe Exotic too, like age aside and the predatory piece aside, these were straight men that he was bringing into the fold. So whether we think he was a good guy or a bad guy, I mean, let's talk about the showmanship and the persuasive powers of Joe Exotic. Like,
I tell you what, if you're buying somebody a $70,000 truck every year and $2,000-$3,000 guns every couple of months, and you're living out in the
some things can be
stuff, obviously they're going to give it up.
What I'm hearing is that if someone on this podcast buys you a $70,000 car, that you're giving it up for them. Was that what I'm hearing? Did you guys hear that?
If you live in Oklahoma, in that area, yes, you are.
How do you think my sister convinced him to marry her? Every year, this guy gets a new $70,000 car. He gets a Tiger. He gets some guns. He gets a new bike. And, that's part of the marriage contract that they have every year.
Then I hate to see what he had to do to be on this show.
We're not talking about that. No, that was written in the contract. We don't speak of those things.
Yeah, there's something. Whoa, lines need to. We have boundaries here, guys.
There's a podcasting couch. Okay, that listen. We don't let everybody on. But it's just some.
It's on that bus.
Exactly.
All right. So, do you think that Joe really hired somebody to kill Carol? Like that's what he was convicted of. Well, he was convicted of the animal cruelty, and then Alan, the $3,000 hitman,
who liked to do his close-ups in the bathtub.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Another Doc Antle point. Notice how quick Doc was like, "You can't get a hitman for $3,000. That's more like $30,000."
He's tried to get a hitman. You're right. Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Do you think he was set up?
Let's go around.
I think that Joe wanted it done. He just wasn't smart enough to figure out how to get it done.
May, did he do it? Did he hire?
I feel like these are not mutually exclusive questions. Yes, he did it, but yes, he was set up. I think this is. I think he'd been talking about, I'm gonna kill Carol Baskin, and Jeff was like, "You really want to?" And he's like, "Yes," and I don't think he goes to the actual trying to pay someone without Jeff. And it seemed like Jeff was just doing it to really take over the business. Like I'm gonna get involved with all the books, and then I'm gonna get him set up, and then I'm gonna own the suit.
Don, where you at on it?
I mean, I think Matt took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I do believe he was set up, but I also think that there was an opportunity to get him out of the way. So those things, just right time, right place.
Campbell?
There are no hitmen. Okay, here's the deal. If you are in like the drug game, okay, or if you're in some sort of mafia mob situation, they're hitmen. And then you might be able to contact a hitman and all that might be. But if you're just a person, if you're Joe Exotic and you're hollering at somebody on Craigslist or something like that, listen, that person is an FBI agent. There are no people who kill people for $3,000, obviously, number one. And then, of course, number two, again, they don't do it for your own personal grudge. Okay, that's the other part. I've always just fascinated by people who go out there to look for a hitman, and they're just a mom or a grandma or somebody that just wants to get rid of somebody. And I'm like, lady, no, that's not. And Joe's in the same boat. And that's how they get, listen, that FBI scenario right there has gotten a million people, right? In either, whether it be drugs, whether it be gang related things, everything else. Yes, it's a semi setup, but they also did it too. So it's a tricky deal.
I also think there's a bigger underbelly to this story. This is a bad editorial, but the jet skiing guy, there's no way he's going down because of a damn lemur. Get real.
You think there's something else there? Let's go. What do you got on Garrettson?
He's sex trafficking minimum. I mean, did you see that guy?
My mind went absolutely to some sort of sexual deviance in every way. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's in the haircut.
Didn't they say he owned strip clubs though? Isn't that where Jeff Lowe met him? Is that he owned some strip clubs and some restaurants? So he's kind of selling in the back room. Hey, you want somebody that's 13 or younger? I'll hook you up.
That not what Tony Soprano taught us? That the strip club's the cover for more devious endeavors?
Well, Tony Soprano was in Garbage.
And
Trash
he had
disposal.
the bada bing. Come on, Andy.
He did have the bada bing, but the legitimate business was the trash company.
Trash, lemurs, it's all the same thing, right?
Lemur strippers, they're all the same thing.
Jet ski rentals.
Yeah, it is funny how they all have these like massive exotic animals that are obviously illegal in every way. And then, yeah, it's the lemur. It's this little monkey that you could sneak in. It almost looks like a cat, that is somehow taking this guy down, like not a tiger, but like a house cat.
I don't think we can move on without me just mentioning, and maybe I'm alone in this, but this fascination with large exotic animals or small exotic animals, I guess I've just never really understood it. And it's like the people with the pictures of the wolves in their house. Like, if I see that, I'm out. Sorry. If anybody has some velvet paintings of, any kind of canine or.
Let me move my camera so you can't see mine.
So obviously Dawn is not a Rocky fan. I mean, really, I'd Tiger. Come on, Don.
How about Garrett?
The Tiger was, props to the documentary crew, really, right there. That was maybe better than Rocky, even. I don't know.
Yeah, with Garrettson riding the jet ski to Eye of the Tiger. That's just.
Oh my gosh, it was just a glorious shot.
So I heard I heard an interview with him. He was on a podcast, and he was talking about. First of all, he was calling memes memes. He did that multiple times. He's like, yeah, I've seen all the memes about me on the jet ski, but he said that his first foray into these animals was like at 17, and he bought like a lion cub that he had like a 1-bedroom apartment, and then like 6 months later, when this lion cub's like 200 pounds, he's like, I don't know what to do with this thing.
I barely want a damn cat or dog. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think our dog's too big for our house. Like, just, like, we're talking a 65-pound boxer. I couldn't imagine, like, what to do. So,
on a more sobering note, in some ways, it will be interesting what happens to those kinds of places, because those places there's several of them in Missouri. There's all over the country, So it is interesting, like, the effect it will have overall on that whole industry.
Let there be the silver lining that's just not.
Exactly.
So this was a working zoo though, right? And Carol's Place is, they're basically attractions. Like if you go to the Kansas City Zoo or you go to any other zoo, they were operated like the same thing, right? They're just a private zoo.
Yeah, but you don't pay $600 to go to the Kansas City Zoo.
Is that how much it was?
Yeah, they said it was like $350 at a minimum, and then if you actually want a tour, it's like $600 plus.
For Joe's zoo or Carol's?
That was for Doc's.
Yeah.
But Carol didn't run a zoo. She ran a sanctuary. Completely different.
You think it was a religious thing?
Know that she could still buy admission to that sanctuary.
She still charged admission, but by calling it a sanctuary, that means that she's the good person.
Most sanctuaries are, yeah. Well, what about Jeff Lowe? So, I mean, does this guy have the marriage that all guys are looking for? Or is this guy the biggest scumbag on the face of the planet? Like the picking out the nanny, like that was just one of the like, no way. Like this is just, I mean, open marriage. So May, where you come out on Jeff Lowe?
Well, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Once again, it's pretty impressive that Doc Antle is the scummiest person that I come back to again, because Jeff Lowe is incredibly scummy. I mean, he would take the cake like 9 out of 10 of these documentaries for being the worst person on there, because, I mean, it really seemed like his business plan with Joe was, I'm going to loan this guy some money so I can get involved in the books. And then I'm immediately going to start, hey, you want to get a hitman, and recording it and all this stuff, trying to get him in trouble. So, I mean, it just seemed like an instant con to take over Joe's zoo. And I don't think Joe was smart enough to see it coming. And I think
Dawn, you seem to have a shrine to Jeff.
what he was doing from the get-go.
Talk to us about the number of affliction shirts you have, as well as the affliction.
Hero. An actual, ode to JC, my main man. But I don't know. I mean, if affliction is still in business, it's because of Jeff Lowe.
Affliction and Harley Davidson jackets as well. Like, I mean, I don't think that I saw him repeat an affliction shirt or a Harley Davidson jacket in the entire documentary, and that is impressive.
Yeah, he and again, it is amazing who you end up feeling sorry for, and that's how it kind of starts. Maybe in some ways that's how the arc of the story goes. It's like it starts with Joe, and then you realize like it just layers in these characters that are almost as bad or worse than Joe, right? And to the point that you realize, like, again, that the people that are supposed to be good in this scenario are actually just as bad. And so there's no winners. I mean, in some ways it very much is there's no happy ending or no good thing about it. I mean, I don't know. The interesting thing is about, is it appropriate that Exotic got like 22 years in prison, and all those things? Like, I don't know. It's just interesting kind of the way they played it, because again, any reality show is edited and made to be a certain way. And I think that on that show with Joel McHale that came out, all the people were very clear, like, I didn't like how they made me portray it, which is what every reality show person does, right? They always come on and be like, that wasn't who I am. And yes, it is you, but they also make you a character too,
So you don't think they portrayed Joe the way he is? You don't think they portrayed Jeff Lowe the way?
No, I think they definitely did. Again, they're gonna make a character out of you that they're
It's the personification of making it 10 times worse than what it is. But because I wrestled with whether or not Joe was a villain. Every person on that Joe McHale episode said, he's where he deserves to be. But then you hear the gal who isn't the guy who they call the gal,
Seth.
Thank you. Not Steph.
He's the best. He's the best.
What he said was Joe did a lot of really good things. So maybe he started out with good intentions and he's a good guy that just ran into desperation. That's what you got to hope for. But, when you hear shooting animals, or pleasure. I just don't know. I mean, Mike Vick, man.
You think he's Mike Vick? Mike Vick with a slightly worse arm.
Joe Exotic, the Mike Vick in this situation, but I just meant that he said that Joe did a lot of good things.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think it's probably the story arc that you see with most people, where he started out, got a little fame, bought into his own hype, just like Matt and I have done. I mean,
are you guys running for governor or president anytime soon?
Thank you for asking. Yes, we are here to announce that you got the condoms with our faces on them, right?
Those are in production, actually, right now.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to use those. I'd rather just get fucking pregnant again.
Right. Ooh, I'm still too embarrassed to go. At this point, our production, the budget we have, I still have to go inside and buy them, and I'm still too embarrassed to go in and buy them. I was just going to draw our 2 C's on it, and then that was what it was going to be. But yeah, I can't go and buy condoms still.
You know, some things you just never get past.
Exactly.
Even in the self-checkout lane? Like, can you do that?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Dudes have it so easy now. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Like, they never have to, call a girl and just pray to God that, dad doesn't answer the phone or brother. The brother, a sibling, was even the worst.
Yikes.
That sounds personal.
Well, now that we're going to talk about it, now you've made me lose my train of thought. Thanks, guys. So what did you think about the presidential campaign? May, you said you knew about it in 16.
I did. I was familiar with the John Oliver shtick. I catch him quite a bit. So I was already graced with Joe Exotic. I'd also be remiss if I didn't point out that Dennis's, my brother's dad, does a lot of charity work at the cancer treatment centers in Tulsa. And sure enough, a few years back, he paid for some tiger cubs to come to the cancer treatment center so they could pet the tiger cubs. And I called my brother. I was like, please be Joe Exotic, please be Joe Exotic. And it wasn't, which is even sort of weirder to me because apparently it was real easy to get a tiger in Oklahoma, around that time. And you didn't have to get it. There were multiple places in Oklahoma to get your tiger cub, which is kind of terrifying. I just kind of thought about that part, but
I'm just kind of curious, was Walmart one of the sponsors for Joe Exotic? Because that's proof right there. You can get anything at Walmart, including campaign manager.
Campaign manager, you got to get that Walmart meat.
You go up, you buy some ammo, some explosives, and hey, campaign manager, throw it in. 10% off today.
That poor bastard.
That poor bastard.
Yeah, he actually seems like one of the normalest people.
You know what? I thought so until I saw the Joel McHale episode. I was like, this poor kid, he seemed the most normal. And then you watch that and he's a little cuckoo.
Do you think that it was before, who was it? Was it Dylan that killed himself?
Travis.
Okay. Before
Dylan
Travis
is still sort of I'm waiting for you on the outside.
Was that so I was kind of half paying attention. Was that purposeful or was that an accident? Was that somebody just goofing around going, hey,
It seems like it was an accident. He was sitting there talking about how you can't fire a Ruger unless it has a clip in it. And I guess you can. So
I think it was an accident.
I mean, the footage of the guy watched it. He looked absolutely horrified. It was, what?
I hate saying it, but I think the guy was a little messed up, beforehand. The campaign manager, because who would keep going to work and sit in the same desk with the bolt hole 10 feet away rest of the time and complain well, they didn't do anything for me. Really?
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I can't imagine walking another foot into that room. I mean, that's obviously like,
I'd be out.
okay, that is a red line I will not cross. I'm never walking into that room again. So that really is interesting. It just, I think, again, goes to show that the people that surrounded Joe and they were just kind of in this weird, like, culty, like, haze, you know, where they didn't react in ways that you would emotionally normally act. And it's, again, mirrors kind of the way people act in cults, you know, where they see things that they know are wrong. They've been raised, you know, again, they've been raised in fine families. They, you know, no one's raised like that. And then they still see something so bizarre and so crazy. And it's just, it's like happenstance. It's nothing. So it's just a really scary and sad. That was really horrible. I actually, I'll just, a personal story. Deanna was sleeping. We were watching it, and we always watch stuff late at night, and then it's kind of a progression of who passes out first, right? And so she fell asleep, and that happened, and I was like, nope, I gotta wake her up. I'm like, I wouldn't have woke her up like for any of the other moments, obviously, right? But that moment happened. I'm like, babe, I started shaking her. I'm like, you have to see this. Like, okay, let's rewind. And then I had to watch it again, but just so crazy and sad and awful.
Do you think that places like those zoos kind of attract people like that? Like, you know, that maybe outcasts, kind of shunned from society a little bit, you know? Do you think that they find, because the guy without the legs, you know, he's just like, I like animals because people are assholes. Like, do you think that
Wrong.
places like that, just they can be around the animals, they don't have to interact with people, you know, maybe they have these socially awkward tendencies or something like that? I mean, do you think that they attract, and no pun intended, but are preyed upon? Because, like, you look at, was it episode 2 where they were talking about like what these people like made in a year to do this, and it was like, wait, that's a year salary
Hundreds of
Yeah.
dollars.
that they're making?
I think maybe there is an element of that for the zoo attracting that type of people, but I think just that behavior, it happens regardless of place. Just a bandit of misfits, who are drawn together and forced into a situation, whether it's longing for some sort of acceptance or belonging, because if you listen to those people being interviewed, they all say they were verbally abused by him daily. So, maybe the element of animals being a part of that and they got some sort of affection is an additional draw, but
Yeah, there also seemed to be a little bit of there was different Joes. So there was Joe when the camera was on, Joe when the camera, when the camera wasn't on. So like camera comes on and all of a sudden I'm going to browbeat everybody and I'll fire everybody and I'm going to be the showman. And, Joe Exotic turned up to 11. And it seemed like when the cameras was on, it was almost like they would not take what he said seriously. Like, he's just doing it for the camera.
You know what, not to pivot entirely, but backing up to something that Campbell said, people saw things that they knew were blatantly wrong. There's some entrapment to that. But if you take the Inside Edition former producer who said he actually, what he saw affected his journalistic integrity, and he stuck around. So I wonder if there's kind of a majestic, like, I don't believe what I'm seeing element there too. Like, that guy seemed somewhat okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did, but I also
Inside Edition. He worked for Inside Edition. He was the producer.
Which,
And you're thinking
I'm not
he was
saying
okay?
that's the highest. That's not like the highest brow media job you can get, but like when you're in production.
I mean, you're talking about, 1 or 2 levels, well, maybe just right below CNN. I mean, that's pretty close.
I love the Joel McHale thing where he said, you worked for Joe Exotic and Bill. Which one was the biggest asshole?
That was amazing. Yes, that was so good. Yeah, and again, it is so, again, it just comes back to this very kind of, that's what people in cults do, they eat Walmart meat and they just sit around and, because again, no one, when you hear that life, anybody on the outside would go, that's terrible. You know, why would you want to do that? Why again? So it's just a really bizarre connection.
Yeah, and it's probably just normal. It's kind of like carnies. You know, people that go around from town to town with the fairs and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, you would probably look at their life and go, man, why do these people stick around doing that? Well, it's their normal. It is. It's different than what we do. Well, are we ready to talk about that bitch Carol Baskin?
Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin.
Killed her husband, whacked
My
it.
phone
Okay.
my
I need
phone
to.
autocorrects.
Yes.
Every time I try to talk about Carol Baskin, it says Baskin Robbins, proving once again what a fat ass I am.
Yeah. So I
That's
got
amazing.
a text from Dawn when I was asking her about this, and it was something like, I think she said, "Can I call you that bitch Carol Baskin Robbins?" So there it is. So Carol, did she kill the husband?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
She
Meg?
didn't
Well,
not
Ashley
kill
was
the
scaring me.
husband.
Not
Okay.
yet.
I'm willing to make an argument that she didn't and I'm like 75-25 that she did. Okay. And I think all the evidence is there, but I also think again that I'm willing to give like the production and knowing that it almost feels like they made it out to be there's season 2, you know, there's going to be season 2 and it's going to be about Carol Baskin, you know, and it's going to kind of move forward in that direction a little bit and kind of see. So I don't know. I always go to like editing and production and wonder if they didn't hype that story more potentially than it was.
So
But
going and modifying the will after the fact to say, and disappeared,
That was wild.
can that bump you up to at least 90% there, Campbell?
yeah, and again, when you start to pick those particular moments out, it does get like very, it's damning. It's damning, and I do believe she did it, or at least, and I also believe like when people disappear or they're murdered, it's always their family. It's always somebody close to them. It's always a friend. It's never like some rando person. No one just came up and got this guy. So, but I will make the argument that if you're rich as he is, there is a potential where when I look at his other family members, okay, and remember the other family members are getting interviewed too, right? His like ex-wife, right, and their family, which they make them to look very normal. But again, in this scenario, come on, how could you not look normal? But part of me goes like, I don't know where they're at and what they have to gain from this. And part of me says, could this man have said, Jesus, I've got this family over here. I've got my new family, Carol Baskin, who is obviously a Looney Tunes. Do I just disappear? I got the money. I've got the means. Do I just bail the hell out of here? I'll just throw that out there.
Possible.
There's
But
no manifest of the flights.
The money, Andy. I'm to the point where I believe like that money can buy you anything. I am now to there. I'm to that point where there are ways. He was a pilot. Now that whole
ball of the guy at the desk, and there's no manifest,
she was Looney Tunes, but back in the day, she was kind of a piece. Like she was kind of hot.
Very foxy, no doubt. Again, you can deal with a certain amount of crazy with a certain amount of hot, right? I mean, let's be honest. I'll just say that, right?
The Barney Stinson crazy hot scale. You got to be on the right side of it. You got to be on the right side of the crazy hot. Yeah,
and Carol now, of course, has just tipped that scale to a point of. But again, I don't know. I do think the world has kind of buried Carol Baskins in this, and again, deservingly probably. And this whole sanctuary thing is nonsense, and this whole like holier than thou thing she did. But I am interested, like, again, did she really do it or not? And that's where my wife went, like, why didn't they spend more time on that? Like, that's where she actually didn't love the documentary overall. It was like, they really honestly should have dug deeper into Carol Baskin's deal and not Joe Exotic's, like, interesting.
It wasn't called Carol Baskin. It wasn't called Tiger Queen. It was called Tiger King.
I actually, though, to that point, Matt, I thought that's where it was going. Like to dig in on that story, because the pop culture right now of like true murder mystery it's popping. The only podcast more popular than this one is My Favorite Murder, if you guys have heard of it.
Well, this is the 699,999th most popular podcast doing an episode on the #1 rated Netflix thing. So I'm sure this podcast that you speak of is probably low 700,000s. Maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
top 3. What's
It's
a
a
rank?
good one. I'll shout out My Favorite Murder. It's a good one. It's a good one.
they
Okay.
don't need plugs on here. They need to be plugged.
Hey, no kidding. Come on now.
I mean, we're
We-
trying to get that Blue Chew money.
Yeah.
I mean, we
That
didn't even
costs-
get sponsored by Blue Chew this week.
I will say it is interesting. Don makes a good point too, where like there's a level of it's comparison to, I mean, who's seen Don't Fuck with Cats, right? Who's seen Don't Fuck with Cats? There's a level of shock value that, I mean, think about the next documentary, the next big thing, right? What are they going to do? What are they going to have? How are they going to shock us more than what they've done? Because if you go from Don't Fuck with Cats to this thing, like you need counseling after that and shit, you know?
Well,
Like
I think
it's scary.
too that it's just like anything else in life. I mean, timing is everything. How popular is Joe Exotic if we're not all under stay-at-home orders and quarantines, and
Right.
our normal lives are occurring?
Pretty
How popular
popular.
is it, right? But now people are starved for entertainment. They're starved
Content.
for anything. I mean, that's why you've seen a spike in our numbers. We're up to like 14 listeners. I mean,
But
that is
tell
a
me-
massive jump for us.
Tell me that a very, very small part of you doesn't feel, maybe I speak alone, but think about TV and radio when we were growing up and our parents like, I can't believe you're watching this garbage. I can't believe you're listening to this song. And are we doing that? And it's not going to be that shocking. And our kids are going to be doing something like On the Moon. And we're going to be like, back in our day.
I mean,
exactly.
this is one of those things where I think when you get to heaven and you have to justify the time you spent on earth, I think this is going to be one of those things where they're going to say, and in 2020, talk about your experience watching Joe Exotic. Do you think there was something better you could have been doing? And we're all going to have to justify this. You're going to have to justify this hour you're spending breaking this down. You're going to have to justify 6 hours. You're going to have to justify the Joel McHale special. You're going to have to justify the DVR of the TMZ thing. We're going to have to justify this 10, 12 hours of our life that we've spent on this.
I don't have to justify Jack. I haven't gone pee by myself without someone looking at me for 6 weeks straight with 400 kids living in my house. I'm going to watch what I want when I want.
So Don's got a defense. May, what's your state?
I literally hadn't watched it until you guys called me and said, let's do a podcast about the Tiger King.
Oh, so now it's on me. May,
Blame us.
I suppose you're going to say the same
100%
thing.
on
Oh,
you
yeah, I
guys,
binge
man.
watched it this weekend because
Now, I'll be the first to admit that I enjoyed every minute. I was watching this terrible thing. Like, this is great. But-
Mason, tell me about my sister's reaction watching this. By the way, I appreciate you coming on. I did tell her that I wanted the more entertaining of the two of you guys on, so I'm glad you guys made the right choice. What was her reaction watching this?
She, everybody had been telling her and me both that it was, you have to watch it, and we didn't know why. So we turned it on, and I hate saying, but we're going through 2-3 episodes at a time. But in our defense, the house cleaning was done and the lawn was mowed. And we both work. So we were actually doing with our free time, not just nothing else to do. Well, actually, no, I guess that's a really bad thing to say. I just saw us down the river. Well, Don, you want to pass me some of that good luck crossover here?
Yeah.
My 10-year-old's room. It was the most quiet place in the house. And I just need something to balance out the collage. She told me that thing creeps her out.
Oh man. So Matt, how long did it take you to consume it? Like how did you go an episode a day? Did you binge it? What'd you do?
This Matt,
Yeah, Campbell.
He's May. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we did. Okay, so we are at a point, and this happens, of course, and I'm not speaking for, hopefully, I don't know, maybe this was one that we watched together. I think we're at a point too in marriage life, that's kind of how it works, where you go like, let's watch this show, and then you don't, like, it's impossible to watch it together, right? Somebody is doing something else, so it's almost impossible to like actually sit down and say, I'm gonna watch this show together, and we actually did that, so that was cool. But yeah, again, she was actually a little skeptical of it and was a little 50-50 with it. But she is big on the true crime, big on that. Like that is her jam in every way. So we're watching all the Datelines, all the just all that stuff. So there was a high bar to cross for her.
Well,
You need to tell her there's new Forensic Files.
What? Okay, yeah, we got to check that out. Incredible. Yeah, so that's our jam. So yeah, no doubt. So in some ways it just kind of fell into what we always watch in a way. And like I said, if you have you not seen Don't Fuck with Cats, Andy?
I have not. I'm still
Then,
working as well.
I mean, that's worthy. I don't know, the people who have seen it. Have you seen it, Mason?
If not,
I saw it.
Okay, Don, tell me, like, where are you at with that one on, like, comparison to Joe and, like, quality level of it?
I mean, it's so much more disturbing and serious, because
Good point.
it's the escalation of harming an animal. No spoiler alert. Can you put that in the podcast notes? But you know what I think that they have in common is just, because there's a lot of that interaction between Joe and Carol, like the power of the internet and just like how scary it can be. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, because that's where in some ways it all comes from. Like Joe's voice is and everything that all this is wrapped around is this internet, right? This world that we're living in right now. And the interesting thing is this Carol and Joe even know each other, or know each other exists without it. The Don't Fuck with Cats has so much level of like, are we the problem? Are us as consumers the problem, right? Like that's kind of the killer at the end of it. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but it kind of turns it on you. I know, but it turns it on you, and it's like, did we cause this? Is our consumption of this crazy stuff causing this crazy stuff? So you do have to kind of start, like, you go as a consumer and go, ooh, again, I still do it, love it and eating it up, but part of you goes, damn, I don't know, is it our fault?
Well, it's very much
the people that seek notoriety know that, they're psychopaths. But
well, it is
Exactly.
very much like a car wreck, a train wreck, where you don't want to look, but every time there's two cars smashed up together on the side of the road, you're
Slowing down to go.
every time.
Does anybody remember the Faces of Death series? I think it was probably 80s.
Of
Like,
course.
Yeah.
I watched all the Faces of Death. You could get them at Blockbuster in the certain section. You could find the Faces of Death. Absolutely.
Yeah, my dad
and you
watched that at a young age, which is probably my obsession with like all things scary.
God, I forgot about those. It is all those faults, no doubt.
So was Big George one of those? I can't believe you're watching this crap when you were when you were like 13, or is Big George the reason why you're?
Not to bore everybody with my backstory, but I was raised by a single dad. My mom passed young, and I mean, we did what he wanted to do. So if he wanted to watch, Breathless, at age 5, I watched Breathless. So Faces of Death was on the radar. I had a Snickers and a Coca-Cola Classic for lunch every day. And if I wanted to sing Fuck the Police in the car, it was my ride at 12.
Yes. God love him.
And that's why we love you the most.
Yeah. And again, like, I think that's probably where, it's all about how can we shock, what's the shock value, what's the level of, and that's the concern of it, is that you go, are we pushing people so far because we're watching it, and because the only way you can get, it goes back to, they've done a really good job nowadays, and they're trying to work better on, like, if there's mass murders or things like that, that they don't publicize the actual, person who did it. They, they kind of try to keep their name out of the media as much as possible, their pictures, so there is a level of like that goes into this, but that's a great one. It's not near, like, honestly, check out Don't F with Cats, and just because it is also just a mind F as well.
But you're not going to feel like you're not going to do a podcast on that feels good. Like this is fun and parody. That is like, oh,
It's dark.
Yeah, we keep it light here. I mean, we're all about having fun. We're all about a good time.
Exactly.
Don't bring me this negative energy. I don't even like my daughter's cat, but still.
But it is, and I mean, not to get too serious, but you do have to be careful now. And there is a level of, like, going back to that Faces of Death thing. Like, there are things on YouTube that the world should not see, that should not be on there, that, it's just it's kind of gross. And then when you click on it, nothing good happens from it. The only one I remember, and it's something that I'll never forget. Daniel Pearl was a guy who was a journalist who was beheaded. It was a terrorist act, and it was on video. And it was taped. And I remember that. And I remember it going around. I remember watching it, and I was like, why in God's name did I do that? Like, what possessed me to think that was something I should click on? And it makes me very careful of what, I want to watch. And I think that documentary and this documentary does a pretty good job of not exposing too much trauma, the stuff you see, but it's pretty traumatic on a few things.
So did we ever see Joe?
We don't see the violence to the animals, but we do see the accidental suicide. And I think we are so desensitized from like that's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. To see that like in real life, you probably would be like that dude needs some drugs, need to get some counseling, need to get on his meds. I think he said in the Joel McHale special.
I mean, I think Mason made a great point that, like, he kept going back and going to that place, and that's a level of where that someone is obviously just to a point of checked out, that that's not a healthy scenario where a person is still working in that same environment.
Or he was super dedicated to his job and really believed in the cause and thought that Joe was going to get that governorship.
Well, and he wants to get back into campaign management, you guys. So we have a lot to look forward to.
Well, the party is looking for a campaign manager. So
yes,
go ahead and reach out to us at 2cswithapod@gmail.com, because
that's right.
We're special. We got a Gmail account. They don't just give those out to anybody.
And this is at least as well produced as the Joel McHale thing, right? That's what everybody's reduced to now. Like, this looks like exactly like the Joel McHale thing, and we just need some of those people that don't have limbs anymore or something on that we can talk to.
Yeah, do you think that they supplied every one of those people with the AirPods? They had to have.
Surely.
Those people.
And some of them had the cool backgrounds too, which I assume they had to walk them through how to do a cool background, because that only works on like iPods and fancy
I bet
stuff.
they gave him all the equipment. I bet they gave him the computers. They gave him the earpods, and a couple of the guys had them on upside down. Hopefully that was intentional. I felt so sorry.
I think they gave Finley teeth.
Yeah, how about that?
I think they did, just because, obviously he'd been clean for 5 years when he is sitting around with the shirt off, but, takes an additional 5 or 6 years to get some teeth.
And that ugly beard.
Oh.
The
internet, right? That's so, like, come on, dude. Don't tell me in those interviews you weren't on a lot of meth, like just a lot. Come on, dude. Stop. Don't that. It is interesting. Again, people kind of revisionist history, and go back and be like, oh no, I was clean through the whole thing. That made me look like, I was a doper. Well, dude, you also had no teeth, man. And you sat around with no shirt on, and you got your pants out. And Jesus, your story says I'm on meth, bro. Like, what are you doing?
How do you know? We've already established they weren't making a lot of money. Do you think that they had great dental? I mean, you think dental was part of the package that they were getting?
Still doesn't have great dental. Those were they weren't implants, so they're not there permanently. He said he can take them in and out. So
Yeah, and he's learned how to talk
No
with
shame.
them.
No shame.
Barely learned how. To me, he was still struggling a little bit.
And he's got that tattoo money because those aren't cheap.
Who had the best tats on the show? May, you're a tattoo connoisseur.
It's got to be the one who had the teeth, man. The proper, privately owned Joe Exotic right over your junk there is. I kind of want to get it, honestly.
Oh,
You
Yeah,
gotta like that guy's
man.
loyalty, though. Like what he wanted to clear up most wasn't the tattoo or what was covered up, but he was like, people are talking smack on my tattoo artist, man. Like,
that was rough.
I like that.
yeah.
Probably because this tattoo
could
artist is
see,
like,
like,
hey
this-
man, you got to clear this shit up. I'm
I'm
losing business because you're not. People say my work is shit. You need to clear this up. The tattoo artist probably won't do any more of his tats for him because he's worried about like people. He can't publish that on his Facebook, his Instagram, his Twitter that he's doing John Finley's tattoos because people are like, your tattoo artist is garbage.
Well, if you looked when he was finished there, you could still see like part of the writing of Property of Joe Exotic coming out from behind the bull and stuff. Like, surely
But
he
it is
wasn't
true
quite
that
done.
tattoos- it's true that they are done in phases. So they're take it from me with all of my tats, but
I got a few. I probably do have the most of anyone pictured here, and I don't have that many.
If you have one, you have more than me.
Well.
Such a bragger now. Like that's his cool brag. That's like his cool humble brag he does. Like
Who,
I don't
me?
have any tattoos.
Me or May? Oh, I thought it was
No,
May.
you. It's your cool little like. Yeah, no, I
Little
love it. No,
brag.
it's really cool. It's great. I love it. It's like your original thing now. Everyone else has them. Mason, do you have a tattoo?
No tattoos.
oh,
Look at you guys.
I got to be honest. Mine actually says Property of Joe Exotic right above my junk.
I thought yours said Property of Gooch.
That's on the back.
Exactly.
That's on the back.
It's Stramp Stamp.
For like 40 years running.
Yeah, big anniversary. 25 years since the first date was a week
Big deal.
ago today.
Congrats.
Your first date can rent a car at 25, I think. What else can you do at 25?
Yes.
Get insurance?
Uh,
No, you can be on your
you can
insurance now
rent
for a while.
Rent a car. Yeah.
And rent a car is like the new thing now. You can do it 25. Like you can go anywhere. So
Yeah. Well, and yeah, who knew? Who knew? And then
that's amazing, though. Yeah, that's incredible, dude.
Yeah, congratulations.
yeah, and then about a month later, I went to prom with a different girl. But whatever.
That's what we do at Christmas. That's what we did at Christmas. It's back to I-Town. Back to I-Town move, right?
To be fair, they spent the night at my house.
Yeah,
later that evening.
and then I brought the girl that I was dating to the girl that I went to prom's house because I'm baller like that.
This checks out.
Yeah. So
We actually were kind of a lot like you were kind of like a Doc Antle, honestly, like a little bit in that scenario. Like I'm not sure, like a sort of quasi.
me or Dawn.
Wow, I'm
It
not
was
gonna
me,
say,
to be
yeah,
honest.
exactly.
And
Dawn was oldest lady in the harem there.
You guys have no idea when we were talking about like 17-year-olds and 19-year-olds, how I didn't make a comment about one of our mutual friends. I had to really restrain myself about one of our mutuals.
Now that it's going up on YouTube, we really got to watch it now. People might actually accidentally click on this thing.
I mean, we might get 7 or 8 views. I mean, it's probably going to be able to sell some ads off that.
Honestly, our name for YouTube isn't bad because if you start typing in 2 C's, and I bet a lot of stuff starts popping up. I'm not sure it's probably our podcast, but 2 C's and then something else. I don't know. I think, but it might be good.
I think we'll be all right. Well, I think we're probably well into the. We'll get into triple digits quick.
Want me to share my screen? We can test it out right now to see what kind of Google creds you have.
We have no Google creds. This is going to be super embarrassing. May, what are you doing?
Not as embarrassing as May
Hey,
playing
fall
with
off
his
there, yeah.
phone and totally dadding out this Zoom.
All right. Well, so let's go round table. Final exotic thoughts. Matt, give me your most exotic thought about Joe Exotic, either the man or the series.
This guy
Campbell.
again. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned. I'll pull out my 4th grade teacher in me. Like, there is so many levels of it, more than just. And I think it's a great point that it is, for the most part, ultimately, as far as we know, other than Carol Baskin's husband, like, is that the only person that actually died in this scenario, in this whole story?
Travis.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Trav. R.I.P. Trav. My bad. We were talking about you. My bad. I'm so sorry. But yes, totally disastrous. But in some ways, it does show you that there's more to when you go to a place like that, when you kind of laugh at people, like, it goes back to John Oliver. I remember that John Oliver video too. In some ways, that's a great point where John Oliver throws him up there. It makes it a joke. But this became a lot more serious and a lot more scary than really, in some ways, that just a joke on an HBO show or something probably should be. So it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting cultural phenomenon in some ways.
All right. So before we move to Mason's final thoughts, one last question for you, Campbell. Okay. Joe Exotic or Donald Trump? Who you putting in office? Got to pick one.
Oh my God, that is so honestly.
That's the 2 candidates you have to vote for. I'm going to roll the clock back to either 2016 or upcoming. You choose time frame.
Potential future advertisers.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to really put our chips in any basket yet. We really want to wait on all that. But no, it would be honestly, Joe. I think Joe's a more real person. Does that make sense? Like, I think Joe would be able to understand people like me, weirdly, and like most normal Americans than the person in there. So it would be hard for me not to vote for Joe. Yes.
Joe didn't have a platform. His platform was the Walmart manager platform. F the Fed.
Yeah, but I just see him as someone who, again, I just feel like he's gone through real life problems. Now, has he done it in a most ridiculous and awful way in some ways? But I just see him as a human being that's gone through human being shit. Like Trump, I just really feel like he's not, I don't know. There's no way he can relate to me or any of us in this room or anybody.
All right, so I'm going to put you down as firmly you would vote for Joe Exotic over Donald Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Honestly,
fair enough.
Yes.
Thank you for answering the question honestly and directly.
That's what this is for.
That's right. Mason, what's your most exotic thought? Final thoughts on Joe Exotic?
Final thoughts. Scumbags will find each other.
Fair enough.
Jeff Lowe, Joe Exotic, Carol Baskin, Doc, they all knew each other. They all started congregating, and obviously bad people find each other, and there's out screw each other just like normal people.
Look at this. He's talking about the 5 of us right here. Bad people finding each other. I mean, I see what you did there. So same final question for you as I asked.
One more thing.
Oh,
one
sure,
more thing.
please. Yeah.
And I am embarrassed about American society that somebody like Joe Exotic gets 19% of the vote. that is very disgusting.
So would it be fair to say that you would vote for Donald Trump over Joe Exotic?
Yes.
Okay. So you are all right. So we're
even though Joe Exotic would understand me better if I went and said, Joe, I'm having a little bit of a rough week. I need $1 billion, and he'd cut me a check. I'm still gonna have to vote for Trump.
Okay. All right. Dawn, talk to me. What's your
50-50? Yeah.
Give us a little bit of what's
like
your
the
final
nation.
thoughts on the final thoughts
so
on
kind
this?
of it kind of flips the last comment slightly askew, but I like that in this time of uncertainty that the show, if nothing else, has brought people together. You know, it's been a platform for people to talk, and you know, like this is the five of us is an example. You know, and I just think it's something that just unified everyone in a time where we desperately needed it. The thing that still bothers me, and I think Campbell, maybe you said this earlier, is you know our culture is it's a bully mentality. Like we're making fun of these people, but I think you know I hope that these people were educated enough that they knew what they were getting themselves into. But nonetheless, I love that you know we have something to laugh about for a second.
And who would you vote for?
I mean, can I write somebody in?
Who would you trust better to handle the COVID-19 pandemic, Joe Exotic or Donald Trump? Who would do a better job?
Well, I have a proxy, but I mean, come on. I mean, I hate to say it, and I want to jump off my roof, but I'm voting for Trump over Joe Exotic. Come on, you guys. Like, can you see Joe Exotic at like with any type of dignitary? He's like, come on, guys. And with the greatest mullet for these events, like, I hate
Again,
it.
no. And you guys know where I'm at with that. I don't know that it's that. I don't know that they're laughing that much more at Joe than they are at us with old boy that we got now. And that's just again my personal opinion. And that's probably a little bit harsh, but I think it would be. It's just, let's be honest. Like, but I will say this. Here's where the commonality is. It's a reality show thing, right? Like Donald Trump came from reality show world, and Joe is very much a reality show person, right? That's what the guy that didn't know it, Inside Edition guy, was making was going to be a reality show. So there's a level of that's where we're at in our society.
Yeah.
Like the joke was, I think we all probably joked, 25 years ago, well, somebody from reality TV will be president, like there'll be a reality TV, if that's how it'll be. And then here we are in some ways. So like Joe being that far off from Trump to me is like, I don't know. It's not that big of a bridge for me to cross. I don't know. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I poured out some for my man Bernie last week. Nobody's more sad than I am, but
I know. I knew you were. Yeah. So I know it's tough. And and that's you're right. In some ways, if you line those two guys up and you said like, who ultimately is a saner human being, like I'm pretty sure that Trump hasn't done crystal meth in the last 10 years. But let's be honest, Joe, that should be like at least one credential. Like that should be
a narcissist either way.
Kind of.
All right, May, what do you got? You're the it's fresh.
I think it's worth pointing out that I think it was in the first or the second episode we met a former Miami cocaine kingpin who admitted to dismembering a body on his property, like within a period of time. And at the end of it, I'm looking back, and he is the most sane, normal person that was portrayed on the show, like in any way, man. Mario, the crazy cocaine cowboy, was like, he was the high watermark for standards and morals.
Yeah.
It wasn't him, man. He was just there.
Impressive, But,
well, and that's the other, right. He was right. They made Scarface after me, basically. Like, oh, cool, man. I would definitely say that on national, on this Netflix documentary. It's like, oh, that's who they patterned me after. Like,
yeah, Scarface is literally like, I felt the least moral outrage at his actions, and that's a pretty wild bar.
Hey, look who's
guest.
making an appearance. We've got the famous Becky from Nashville.
Yes.
Is that where I'm at right now?
Somewhere over here.
Nashville's
Thank you.
daughter. Tennessee Titans #1 fan.
Oh, hell no.
That girl.
Oh, listen to that accent. Oh my goodness.
Oh, hell no.
Now we're
Oh,
in the
hell no.
public.
Boy,
What's going on, guys?
you are
You enjoying
Southern.
your chat?
Yeah. Thanks for ruining our award-winning podcast by getting us off topic. I mean, we've been on point
I'm sorry.
the entire time.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
And then, now you're going to come in here and ruin it. What do you think about the Tiger King?
A lot of things.
Well, that's what we're here for.
I feel like I'm coming in too late to talk about it.
Just give us your overall thoughts. You can take my time.
Take
Go
your
ahead.
time.
Overall thoughts.
Overall thought, I think at first he liked the animals, but then towards the end, I think he got too hung up on killing Carol
Oh,
and becoming.
I thought you were going to make a comment about your oldest brother liking a certain cat, and then when his family went on vacation,
He
said
did kill that cat, didn't he?
said cat disappeared. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when we were kids.
Mikey killed a cat while we were on vacation.
Yeah,
Yep, it happened.
it's not been confirmed, but it's pretty suspicious, and he's definitely a person of interest
Luka
on this
Magnotta.
whole thing because
Maybe he
go
killed
on vacation, we come back, suddenly the cat's gone.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Come
And
on.
he's- he
And
doesn't
always
know
hated
where-
that cat.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
cat's name.
Which
one
cat
was
was it?
that?
I don't
Was
know.
that-
Which
We had so many.
was it yours? I think it was your cat, or was it
We
mine?
now have 2 more suspects, by the way. Neither one of you know what name the cat. Sounds like you really love this cat.
Yeah. What cat was it? I know he killed it.
Well, it wasn't Calico because you guys hid that one in the closet.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Let's talk more family secrets let's talk Kavanaugh family secrets. This is fun. Let's do this.
well, you want to talk about the time that Mike opened up his Nintendo?
And
Check
played
it out.
it for a month.
The
Went-
Christmas present move.
Yeah, so
Yes.
he went and found out when my mom had hid the Nintendo, played sick from
Wow.
school, stayed home, went down, got the Nintendo, played it all day,
Yep.
and then put it back in the box and put it back in the spot.
Well, that's just a sharpshooter with upper management written on it. if you ask me.
Yes.
Pretty
And she
hardcore.
didn't find out about it until 20 years later?
Oh yeah, I mean when the statute of limitations was over and it's
That's what
confession
you guys
time.
think. She killed the cat. She did.
Exactly.
No, the cat murder was still well before she knew about this. So now here's the other thing about cats in our parents' house. Becky's cat, when she was like a teenager, still alive.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
What is he?
21. This cat's
Yeah,
like
but-
21 years old.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
just still alive.
Has it been around Mike?
I think it's one of those things where Mike had moved out of the house so long that I mean, but we have the little cat rescue down at the
The sanctuary.
the little cat rescue sanctuary. Down
Watch out, Mason. How big is this cat? How big is this cat?
Well, he used to be a little bit bigger, but now he's maybe about 10 pounds.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
He can't- he
I'll
won't
tell
eat
you
you.
what, he's such a beautiful cat. The neighbors kidnapped him for a couple of days. This was like within the past year, even.
Catnapped.
Yeah.
That's how they are in Tennessee. That's how they are.
no, he's still at my mom's house.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that your mom? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Independence.
Yeah.
That's an
Independence coming-
independence move. I'm
independence
trying to
coming in.
bash Tennessee, and it's I-Town, of
Yeah,
course.
Independence coming in. So
Damn it.
all right. Well, hey friends, our time's running up. This was a lot of fun. I
And
can't
for
wait.
May, his political candidate.
Oh yeah, May. Who you voting for? You taking Joe Exotic or Donald
I'm
Trump?
going Joe Exotic, man. I'll just be the flat out going Joe Exotic.
Okay, so we've
You're
got
Without
just a fan of
hesitation.
the hair, May.
we're two Joe Exotic, two Donald Trump.
hesitation.
Becky, you can be the tiebreaker. Where are you going? Joe Exotic or Donald Trump? You have to vote for one for president.
Oh, God. They both kind of suck.
What?
Yes, they do.
Speak into the microphone.
Who
There's
would
a
you rather?
microphone.
It's like you have to answer and death isn't an option.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of fuck, marry, kill here, but we just don't have we don't have the third option. So I mean, if we threw Carol Baskin's husband in there, we would know who the kill option would be. So we just wipe that right out.
That wedding photo.
I think it could be fun to watch go. for a few years, honestly.
So you want Joe Exotic running the COVID-19?
No, oh God.
I mean, honestly, who is running the COVID-19? It would probably be just fine.
Joe Exotic would just he'd have the COVID come close to the cage. He'd get somebody that the COVID trusts, and then he'd put a bullet in its head, and then problem solved. So
I hate saying this, but I don't really trust Joe with the gun. He's obviously not a very good shot. I mean, when the tiger was dragging him off, he fired about 5 times and he missed.
that was one of my favorite scenes where they put something on his boot, and that tiger just kept messing with him. Hey, good. And he's sitting there trying to hit it with the
That tiger just wanted to eat his ass. That had nothing. Nobody put nothing on his foot. I guarantee you, that tiger just had enough, man, of Joe. I'm sure. You kidding me? Those tigers. How do they not eat more of those people? That's the other part. Like,
well, and that's probably
They're getting that good Walmart meat.
yeah.
I know.
That's probably one of the things too, is that like the jokes that these people would probably play on each other. Like we would be looking at it going, you could have killed him by having this like, yeah, I put that sardine meat right on his arm so that the tiger would like just bite off an arm or something.
Funny.
No desire. Yeah, I'm with again. It just goes back to where is the fascination with this thing? Because why do people do this? Right? Like it's weird.
Well, probably so that they can start a YouTube video with, hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
I don't see, the next time I see you guys, if I don't see some majestical photos of wolves and cats to our earlier point, it's over between us.
We'll make sure we'll get a picture of Becky's current cat, and then we'll get the one that picture of the cat that our brother killed.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Name.
He's never been convicted of that. But, just like that cat's probably in some sort of septic tank or buried below the pool at my parents' house. Like,
It's in Costa Rica, dude.
yeah, it's in Costa Rica. Yeah, there's no manifest. All right.
Hey.
Next week, Matt and I are back to hashtag Ask Us Anything. Always the fun episodes. But thank you
I think
to our
some of the
panel,
folks on here have been some participants in those.
contributors to that. So
Yeah.
we'll look forward to some more questions. We probably won't answer their questions because now guest hosts are ineligible to ask us questions. But
Yeah, we wrote that in your contract. You guys probably didn't see that.
yep. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This was the most hosts we've ever had. I mean, we started with 5, then we ended with 6. I mean, that's generally more. We have more hosts than listeners. So I mean, we just keep getting more hosts, and then that'll definitely help our listenership.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I'm for it.
Thank you guys. We'll talk
Thank
later.
you.
All right. See ya.
Guys, so good to see you all.
You
Bye-bye.
too.